I should have moved those. This broadcast is live. Everybody knows that's my favorite words to see. Good afternoon and welcome to the Greatest Salesman podcast. My name is Dan McCormick. I've got some amazing guests today. Bill and Julie Toth from the fabulous state of Texas are going to be with us. If you're new to the podcast, we go live on Facebook at Wisdom Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific time, live on YouTube, and then it'll get streamed onto the many different podcast sites around the globe, whether it's iHeart, Apple, Spotify, etc. You can also go to thegreatestsalesman.com, thegreatestsalesman.com, and you can always go there and listen to the different shows that we've had. It is so great to have Vanessa's already chiming in here. Your neighbors down there in Texas. It's going to be a terrific show. And for those that are new with us, we love your comments while we're live in show. Any comments you want to share, offer, please don't hesitate. Many of you are going to know Bill and Julie. Share your thoughts. We're going to talk about this unbelievable thing called The Greatest Salesman in the World, the first book that ever changed my life. And as the ambassador to the Augmandino Company, it is just a joy to welcome Bill and Julie Toth from Texas, episode number 20. You guys are in the chair, and that chair says, I selected you as the greatest salespeople in the world today. How are you?
We're great in the great nation of Texas. Thank you.
Yes, you are. You're great. Julie, it's great to see you.
Good to see you too, Dan.
Okay, you guys, this is what I love to do. Before we got so many people chiming in already. They're all over the world already. Canada, across the pond, United States. It's going to be great. I always love when I have these greatest salespeople on the show to ask them, okay, you guys have done amazing things. So I always love to say, what are the three things you think that shape your life each and every day, or life in general? Three things that might be very, very important to you.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to? First. All right. Well, I think when I get out of bed and when I just start my day, the very first thing I do is I have faith that I have another great day, and I thank the Lord for that. Goodness gracious, this day and age, we have so much to be grateful for. That's number two, is gratitude. Start my day out with gratitude. And I got to tell you, we live on a ranch, and I go hug a horse and go ride a horse every morning. So those are some of the things. I'm very grateful for the family and the focus and our friendship and our family around the world in our business as well. So what are yours?
Yeah, so I have another opportunity to learn and serve.
And what was number three?
Oh, so I said faith and gratitude, and I jump on a horse and look at nature and look around at what we have that we're so grateful for.
Terrific. Bill, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I wake up thinking, oh, wow, I got another day above ground. What can I do today? What can I learn, and who can I serve? And the first thing I do in the morning, thanks to our gym being closed, it used to be go to the gym.
Exactly.
But these days, this year, it's been about feeding our new kittens in the barn. So my daughter and I go up to the barn, and the frigid freeze, it's 40. Okay, so just so you know, 40 is really cold in Texas. And so we go up to the barn, and we feed the cats, and we feed the horses, and we feed the cows, and we have a few minutes, just daddy and daughter, and then we come back to the house, and we get going. We start breakfast. We crank up the computers, and it's outbound energy from there.
So when you had your previous rhythm, was your rhythm as at the gym? What would be in your ears? Are you listening to something, thinking about something in the personal self-help space?
Well, the gym is all about personal improvement, and I don't remember who said it, but it was John Wooden said 1% improvement per day, and so I would go to the gym and I say, what could I do better today than I did yesterday? And we work out at a university gym, so we are the oldest members there generally, except for Julie's mom, who's 82. And so we have all these young kids who are very impressionable, and they don't have a lot of experience in the world, and we get to interact with them and touch their lives, and they touch our lives. They called me the strong old man at the gym, and I asked one of them one time how old he thought I was, and he said 40, and I said, thank you, you're my new best friend, have a great day.
But I got to tell you, Dan, you forgot to ask the question. On the way to the gym, what are we listening to? And on the way back from the gym, what are we listening to?
There you go. Tell us what's feeding your mind to make you guys in this greatest salesman seat every day.
Well, I'm a fan of podcasts, so I listen to podcasts all the time. And so it's going to be some podcast of somebody filling our minds and filling our hearts for the day. I'm a lifelong learner, and so if I don't learn something new every day, I don't really feel valuable. It's a benchmark for me. What did I learn today? Who can I use it for or with today? And that's kind of how I look at my day. And so podcasts are important. This year, it's been a lot about spirit, faith, and real estate. So those are the things that have been occupying our morning rides and our morning listens.
Right.
So Julie, every time I'm on the phone with Bill, what he just said is really interesting because he's, I think, one of the most inquisitive friends that I have. Like he's always asking me about something that maybe he heard me say on. So is it like that way in the marriage, in the business relationship?
Well, first of all, he's one of the smartest men I know.
Yeah.
And so he feeds me a lot of knowledge that I don't necessarily have. I wouldn't say I'm the smartest person, and he does feed a lot of knowledge, and he asks always really good questions. And he has got us all asking the same questions. And the funniest thing is he'll ask questions and then we'll turn around. Our daughter and myself, we only have one daughter at home now. We'll ask his questions back to him. And he always goes, gosh, you're doing it again, using my material. And so, yeah, we do it back to him all the time.
I love it. I love it. So we've got people, this is the most international show we've ever had. We've been live for 6 minutes. We've got Africa to Australia. We've got Scotland to California. People from all over Canada. It is great. So I like to say that the quality of our life is based on the quality of the questions we ask. And I think Bill is extraordinary at that gift. I think Stephen Covey kind of taught me that perhaps. And so Julie, when you guys got married, you met in the business, I believe. Is that right?
We did. We were on a snowmobile when the spark started flying, and we always argue of who won going down because we're very competitive. And I think it was me because he saw the blonde hair behind my helmet. But yes, we met in the business.
In the business. And Bill, your profession as a doctor, and I believe you also tell me about your stint with working with Tony Robbins.
Yeah, so I practiced medicine for nearly 12 years. It was awesome. And I focused on sports and neurology. And the reason I focused on sports, because athletes always want to get better. And that was just a philosophy that fit me and a lifestyle that fit me at the time. Yes, I did have a 10-year stint of working with and for Tony Robbins. It really shaped my life. For me, the power of questions came from Tony. We had morning questions, afternoon questions, and problem questions, and evening questions. And they still guide my life today, and they are instrumental in the way that we coach our team is asking questions. Because when you ask a question, you direct a person's focus in a certain direction. And you can really move somebody by getting them to answer their own question. So it's not you creating the answer. So whatever answer they create, it's real for them, it's sincere for them, and it moves them further than telling them what to do.
Wow, I love that. Tony was famous kind of for, loving. You and I were on the phone last night talking about this, and I said, he loves that word certainty. I wonder how that played out in your working for him, because that's a word that not everybody uses every day, but he really likes to pound that home for the real driving entrepreneur, doesn't he?
Well, it's one of the 6 driving human needs. So we have this need for certainty and uncertainty. We have this need for love and connection, and we have a need for growth and contribution. And Tony loves the word certainty, but I truly believe, based on what I've seen in our business in the last 2 decades, it's hard to say that. It doesn't, inside I feel like I'm still 8 years old sometimes. So yeah, for the last 2 decades, what I've seen is that people will do more for others, and they do more for growth and contribution than for anything else in their life. And so that's been kind of if you look at a broad stroke of our business and our career, it's been about growth and contribution, growth in ourselves, because we've grown a lot. I mean, we started in a way different place together and then in this business than where we are now. And our reach spans the globe at this point, which is awesome. And it adds a richness to the texture of our life. So growth and contribution for me are the 2 biggest drivers, I believe, for us and for our business.
Boy, that's just so well said. People chiming in. We now can add Austria to the global empire of listeners. We've got
That's the home of Arnold.
Oh gosh.
We got Regina Pappas popping in saying the Socratic inquiry, always wanting to know and to learn. And I think the book of James teaches us we have, more time listening than we should be doing talking. And so let me ask you, Julie, in the world of self-help for you, how does the rhythm of the day work? How do you blend in those things for you? Because you guys have a big team. Go ahead.
We do. And that preteen is now at home a lot because she does virtual school. And then the other part of our day is driving her as chauffeurs. I feel like we're the chauffeurs back and forth to dance. She's taken on a whole nother rhythm in her life. 4 to 5 hours of dance every night except Thursdays. She has Thursday and Sunday off. And so for me, I will tell you, I feel the most, you say, what drives you? What is a personal development? I can tell you personal development and all of that has a lot for me to do with doing. I learn so much from doing. And this is kind of interesting because Bill and I are a little different in this, but I'm out hour and a half to 2 hours outside with the horses. I listen to sermons. I listen to music. I listen to music that I can understand the words. Right? Yeah. And I always have something playing in my ear. And I learn from nature and I learn from people that we work with. We work with people everywhere. I learn from these mothers. There are more things that I do not miss a training. We have training every single day. And I always go into that training thinking I'm going to learn something new from someone that has empowered us by being part of our team. So there's a lot of that goes along that Bill does a lot of personal development. He has it going on in the background when we're doing things. So I get that also, but I get my power and my source slightly different. And I have to be outside. I have to see the biggest part of nature, what God gave us. We live where you can't see a building except for our barn and my parents' house. We created that so that it's all about nature and it's all about giving back.
Wow.
And for me, I have an hour and a half,
without me.
sometimes 2 hour class while I'm riding my bike on these backcountry roads. Yeah. And for me, that's heavenly and peaceful, and I'm absorbing and learning, and then I come back and then apply. So being outside, I guess, is one of the key aspects of our day and our life. It is really energizing, and it's so hard to go outside and miss the fact that we live in a totally abundant world. I was giving a presentation a couple of weeks ago in Oklahoma. We were on the side of a mountain overlooking the Arkansas River. The wind was blowing the leaves off the trees in our face. And strangely enough, there was bees, and I'll come back to the bees in a minute. But there was bees dipping in on the rose bushes that were still there. But I told the audience, I said, just try to count the leaves on a tree, even the ones that have bare at the moment. It's going to be difficult. Or count the blades of grass that you're sitting on top of. We live in an abundant world, and it's so obvious, and so many people miss it. And for the folks that live in a city, count all the cars on the highway and count all the stores. I mean, count all the people. There's a lot.
Yes, but for those people that live in the city, you need to drive out to the country.
Yes.
We lived in the city for many years. You need to go see the abundance around besides just the concrete that we've created as human beings. So I do recommend you go out to the country.
That is so funny. A couple of things you remind me of. I remember when my wife and I went to the U.S. Open tennis in New York City. And I remember taking the shuttle bus from the hotel to the tennis center. And this guy next to me says, he's just looking around, never been to New York. And he just says, wow, there's a lot of concrete here. There's not a lot of grass in downtown New York City, right? But maybe someone will type this in because you said something that has such value. And that is, never does nature say one thing and wisdom another. And that's from our great friend that co-wrote the book, The Nature of Leadership, with Stephen Covey from National Geographic. And man, what a message he always has to celebrate what's good in the world. You touched on that, Bill. So I love the doing. I love you learn by doing. I think that is a fantastic thing for people to appreciate here today. I can feel like Bill wants to say something right about now.
Well, I live with the do it now queen. So, and we truthfully, you can read all the books in the world, but knowledge is only power when you apply it. And so it's the application, it's the doing that leads to the knowing. And I did want to say something about the bees. There was one point where there was a few ladies sitting in the front row, and they were like waving their books wildly because there was bees buzzing around their head. And I thought, what a perfect example. Proof that there is a plan, his plan, and a perfect example of servant leadership. Because here was this little bee that was looking for a flower to land on. When the bee lands on the flower, something sticks to its legs. So the bee is there with self-interest. And so a lot of our team, they come to us with self-interest. They need to make money, or they want to make money, or they need a product, or they want a product. So they come with self-interest. But what happens is that the bee then takes off after fulfilling its needs. It takes off and goes and lands on another flower. And some of the nectar that got on its legs from the first flower drops off on the second flower. So it is a servant leader. And it is proof to me that there is a perfect plan, because here's this humble little bee just buzzing around, serving its own needs, and at the same time serving humanity. Because if it wasn't for bees, we wouldn't eat.
Love that. I had not thought about that or heard of that before. That's just terrific. If you're new with us to the Greatest Salesman podcast, my name is Dan McCormick. I'm the ambassador for the Augmandino Company. We have the amazing greatest salespeople in the world today, Bill and Julie Toth, and we really are thrilled. So many people, so many questions, so many comments, so many fans of yours that know you on the journey. Bill, I wonder if just on behalf of thinking about the readings that you do, when do you think the first time you saw or read The Greatest Salesman in the World, The Greatest Secret in the World was?
Dan, it was probably from you.
Okay.
It was early in our time with this company, and it was shortly before I passed to the other side. So it was the early 90s.
Okay.
Maybe not the early 90s. No, because we didn't meet you until 98, or 99, somewhere in there.
It was after Luke was born in 99. So we met Dan on our Blue.
Anyway, it was probably from you, because you have been a fan of this book for a long time. And we probably started a conversation on that van on the way from Provo down to Las Vegas.
Yes.
On that trip. And we probably started a conversation about what are you reading, or and it probably came up then. And I have a rule. It's a very simple rule that if a book comes into my awareness 3 times, I go buy it. And so and many of them over the years I've acquired that way. And sometimes I might only read a chapter out of a book, and that's all I need from that book. And that's the value, or the learning kernel from that book. And maybe I go back to it time later and pull something else out of it. We're forever pulling things out of the Bible, and we're forever pulling things out of Think and Grow Rich and Outwitting the Devil, and a whole slew of other books that we go back to over and over and over again.
It's a constant thing, Julie. I know that you guys are in the doing mode so much, but I remember that drive from Provo down to Las Vegas. That was quite a drive. I think we went to the Blue Man concert, didn't we?
No, it was
Celine Dion.
Celine Dion,
because she cut her hair.
But Blue Man was popular, and Scott was talking about Blue Man quite a bit.
Yeah.
But one thing I remember talking about doing, because I remember
I do too.
Right near Clara's house, you told the van driver to stop so you could jump into a chiropractor's office and talk about the scanner.
I don't remember that. That's amazing.
And we have no idea how you got back to Clara's house, but you did.
Oh, that is too funny. That is too funny. Well, this is fantastic. For those that might be joining us for the first time, we love to have the Augmandino podcast commercial come up for you to benefit you. If you haven't read the book, we hope you will. The Greatest Secret in the World, The Greatest Salesman in the World. You can go to habitfinder.com/podcast. Oh, you got the greatest miracle right there. Oh my gosh, the God Memorandum. How can you not just love the God Memorandum and what Og teaches us there? Wow, what a humble servant. I think you mentioned that you may have seen him on stage in the late 90s before I think he passed 96, yeah?
He did pass in 96. I was talking to a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, Scott Van Pelt, and he actually picked Og up at the airport for his last presentation, and then took him back to the airport, and then the next day found out that he had passed. And Scott has a very unique story because the God Memorandum is treating a person as if it was their last day on the planet. And as Scott was dropping Og off at the airport, he gave Scott his personal address and telephone number, which was rare back then. And then he also gave him a leather-bound edition, the triple book edition that he had, and signed it for him and his family, living what he was talking about. So treating each person as if it was the last day, giving a gift, giving his last book out of his bag, and then the next day he passed on. And so he was a living example of what he wrote about and talked about.
Well, Julie, I think that you could echo that by looking at your three things: faith, gratitude, nature. I mean, that is your genuine, authentic you. And we all try to be better each and every day. But I mean, you embody these things every day. It wasn't just three things that you just picked. These are three things that you do and live and love, right?
Yes. And I have to say, the love piece, was you were talking about living life as though it's your last day. You know, I think that something that we have learned these last 11 months, maybe just this year, is that we do need to love people where they're at, and we get to love life out loud. You know, that's one thing that we always say, live life, but what about if we loved life out loud? And so when I talk to people, I think of what could be good about them, what could be good about this. Bill says I'm the biggest, I pivot. The word pivot has always been around. I started my business with a pivot. Whether you know my background or not, I started as a single mom. It was a pivot for 2 years until Bill and I met. Everything was pivot. And so for me, I think you have to, the time in my life where it was not focused on others and loving people where they're at and loving life where you're at, was when I didn't have confidence because I was so focused on myself. So one of the things I believe is super important is that when you focus on service to others and loving people where they're at and loving your life where it's at and living it out loving it out loud, that you become more. And so Bill always laughs because I put a bubble around me with everything. I just live in this, constant, how can we do better, be better, love this person, who do they know? I mean, it's all about the next piece and pivoting into the next person and the next thing that we're working on. So
I have another nature story for you. So in my younger days, in my Tony days, we were doing an event down in Hawaii, which was in Kona, where one of the premier dolphin research facilities is in the world. And I was single at the time, and I acquired a target that was standing there training the dolphins, and she was beautiful. And I decided that day I was going to have lunch with that person. And it was a epic crash and burn, worse than the Top Gun scene. I just totally messed it up. And that's fine, because I learned something from that person. As we were sitting there eating lunch that day, and as she was politely saying no 500 times, she said to me that dolphins can only be trained with positive reinforcement. You can only train a dolphin with love. And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, if you try to spank a dolphin, it's just going to swim away. If you try to scold a dolphin, it's just going to swim away. And it stuck with me. It penetrated me on a deep level that day. And I thought, what a great way to approach children, and what a great way to approach people. If we approach them and positive reinforcement is the mechanism you go to first, what kind of results are you going to have? And so we later met a mentor in this business who calls that the Oreo cookie. The Oreo cookie approach. So you compliment a person, you match their energy where they're at, and you meet them and you compliment them. You provide that coaching moment, which is the cream in the middle, and then you follow it up with another compliment afterwards so that they feel good about themselves and that coaching moment. And you know what? Oreo cookies taste pretty good.
I want to welcome everybody to our nature show today. This is Dan McCormick. I love it. We got horses, we got bees, we got dolphins. Now look, I think we went to South Africa together, didn't we, about 3 years ago?
We did.
We did.
We can bring zebras into the picture here. We can bring elephants into the picture, lions and tigers, the whole enchilada.
Don't forget the giraffe and the turtle story.
And the rhinoceros.
The rhinoceros. Wow. Well,
if a giraffe puts their head down to the ground, goes down to the turtle, they will not be able to breathe. So, you have to always be up where you belong.
So.
That's great. That's great. We are full of great analogies from nature, which is, never does nature say one thing and wisdom another. So
Correct.
back to your point a few minutes ago, Bill, I pulled up the scroll, the cardstock file of Ogg's famous words, "I will live this day as if it is my last." And it was, what a great story you shared about Scott Van Pelt, our mutual friend, taking Ogg to the airport and literally seeing him at his last moments on life and earth, living what he wrote. That is why this is worthy of every library. And that is why all of Ogg's book, The Greatest Miracle, The Greatest Secret, The Greatest Success, The Christ Commission. I mean, there's so many outrageous principles that he shared. His way of living and teaching was a philosophical approach that was been rarely approached in life. It's really fascinating. I wonder, because I always ask people to review the scrolls or the book before they come back on. Was there anything that struck you in doing that about his writings?
Yes. The very first one that caught my attention is number 2, I'll greet this day with love in my heart, because that's really how Julie gets up. It's not always how I get up, but it's always how she gets up. And it's an example for me, and it does mold me throughout the day, because if Julie's positive, how can I be negative, right? And so that is another one. And then the other one is, I will persist until I succeed. And I don't know if you can all see it on the back of my phone, but I have this little phrase on here. It says, "I don't know how I'm going to win. I just know I'm not going to lose." And that's kind of driven me throughout my life. I should not have been successful as I've been in my life. At every turn, people blocked me and said that I couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't. And for some reason, I just kept moving forward. And so I know that I might not know how to do something right now, and I might have to learn it. And I also know that I can outwork the guy next to me. Not the woman next to me, but the guy next to me.
I'll bring in a kid analogy real quick. We teach our kids by what we do, by not by what we say. Same with everything. It's our acts. It's not really the words that come out of our mouth. And so we were walking in the backyard a few years ago, and my son, I think it was his freshman or sophomore year in high school, and he said, "You know why I do basketball?" Now, this is a kid that was maybe 5'2", 5'3", I don't remember, but not very big, and 110 pounds. And he was always supposed to play baseball. That's what his dad did, and that's what everyone said he could do. And he said, "You know why I play basketball?" And I said, "No, I have no idea. Please enlighten me," because he loves the game. Like, he loves it. And I said, "Why?" And he goes, "I play basketball because everybody told me I wasn't going to be good, I couldn't do it, and I wouldn't be successful." Wow. And that stuck with me. In fact, I get a little when I hear that, because that is part of living as though every time we live life a day at a time, knowing that if we don't talk to one more person or help one more person or listen, that we have that same thing with our children. They're listening to us. And I know we've done the best in our business when we have had big things in front of us, and also big issues, like big pitfalls, things that we've had to pivot from. The lesson has been as big as the pitfall or as the challenge. And so I look at that and go, oh yeah, every day we could look at it negatively, every day. And every day we don't have to look at it negatively. You can leave the news and the negativity to somebody else, because my channel is the positive channel. My channel is the happy channel. Why not live like that?
Both things exist side by side all the time.
Positivity channel. Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, but negativity and positivity exist side by side all the time. You get to choose what you focus on. And with our children, we're either an example or a warning for them. And so I tend to think, whereas Julie's the do it now queen, I tend to think along the lines of, how do I want to be remembered? And if I say this to my child today, how will they remember it after I'm gone? So I tend to go to that place a lot, the long-term thinking. But the reality is both negativity and positivity are always present, and they're always in balance. So choose the one that supports you in your mission at the moment.
Yeah, I would say, Dan, don't you think the times in your life that you've done the most is when someone said to you, you can't do that? okay, you can take that as a bad thing or a good thing. Also in life, when we're told we can't do something, we go do it anyway, and we might not should do that. But isn't that also what we have a tendency to do, is take that negative that someone says and say, heck, if I cannot do that.
Really good. I want to put Fafita's comment back up on the screen if we can, Miriam, my producer here. And I think so much, I don't know Fafita very well, but she's here every week. She's just got, look at the resonation she has with what you're saying here, the vibes. And I think that, you know, the positivity, I remember reading a book called Positivity several years ago and interviewing that author. And, you know, it's an awesome thing when you find that rhythm to life, to where you're surrounded by positive people. You get to choose to be in nature every day, which nature's kind of really not going to have a bad day unless you're going through one of those fires or earthquakes or those things that happen in a flash. But for the most part, nature's just a beautiful teacher, even with the fires and that clear out the underbrush and all that. Not the people that lose their homes. Godspeed to all of them. But what an amazing thing to see the positivity in your life and what you're resonating here with our listeners today. And if you're joining us today in your first time, we don't know if you're going to be listening 6 weeks, 6 months, or 6 years from now on the podcast or on the webpage or on Facebook or YouTube. But I love what Fafita says here, just the vibe that you bring to the rhythm of it all. And Bill, I want to go back to something you said a moment ago and see if we can't trigger something out of your brain here. And that is, you said you usually buy a book when someone mentions it 3 times. Did it take me mentioning it 3 times for you to buy this one? Or what is the latest one that has hit your 3 times list?
The latest one that hit 3 times, thanks to you and to Eileen, is the Money Loves Speed, because it happened this morning that when I clicked on Amazon, it was one of the books that was on the list. People that bought this also bought this. Yeah, and so I have a new book coming. Yeah. Thanks to you and Eileen. But it's not just people, because books can show up on the credits to a movie. Books can show up on a billboard. Books can show up and messages show up in different places. And you just have to be open to seeing, hearing, and feeling them. And I do want to say something about fires. You know, since this is the nature show, one of the things I learned as a child is that when fire burns off the top of the mountain, one of the very first things that grows back is the short version of the blueberry bush, which feeds the other smaller animals that come back to the mountain after the fire. And of course, blueberries are an awesome favorite. So fire is restorative as well as water is restorative. It's all in balance.
Wow. I'm intrigued by this. This is 32 minutes of a lot of intrigue for me. I love this. I've got a lot of notes, Julie. I've got you talking about being a lifelong learner. I've got you know, just where did Nike has that slogan, just do it. Where did that kind of hit you? Was that in your DNA from being in school as a kid?
Not in school. I'm competitive by nature. Not necessarily school books. I mean, I did well in school. I did all that, but I know my father and my mother is a very positive person. I like to get the positive from my mother. My father is very competitive. And I get the do it from him. He is more so, and we live on the property with my parents. We built a house, their house is back behind us. But I get at that. And then I also was in a lot of I did competitive horse riding. And I did a lot with leadership as a kid. And it was all about winning. It always has been about winning. It's always, I remember buying a horse. My dad bought me a horse that was not the most expensive horse. It was a very inexpensive horse. And everybody told me I couldn't win. I remember getting the national championship on that horse in a class that should never have been won by that horse. And to this day, my father still says that horse acted like a different horse that day. And I think that's the case with a lot of us. We can live beyond our means. We can live, and our gifts are our gifts, but we can actually do more than our gifts. We can always go another step further. Some people live life by I'll just do a little bit. And I've always lived life, I will do as much as I possibly can. And Bill can say that. I literally burn the candle at both sides. So It's just in my DNA.
Yeah. In Texas, we say you can have a $50,000 horse, but if you only have a $2 rider, it's not really going to take you very far. So here we have a $50,000 rider and a $2 horse out there.
Seriously, I've got an Arabian that we've been training. It hadn't had a saddle on even as a year ago. And it's a challenge, and it's been a fun challenge because I know I'm a challenge. I know I wasn't the best at things. I look at our daughter. She was not the best dancer, but she's become the best dancer, in my opinion. So you just have to look at it. The potential is there. And Bill says it the best. You can even say it's taking the ordinary. Go ahead and say your little saying, because I love that. You can take ordinary and they could be extraordinary. And so that's what I have a tendency to do is if you can't do it, you might as well take something that's not the best and make it the best, because that's each and every one of us, right?
And our daughter, she gets that, the back of my phone here, I don't know how I'm going to win. I just know I'm not going to lose. So her dancing 4, 5, 6 hours a day is because she sees and looks up to somebody and she says, I want to be able to do that too. And then she will work until she gets that done, whatever that thing is. Her work ethic is right up there with the top of the top. We have a mutual friend, Nathan, who has a very strong work ethic too. There's lots of people that we know in tandem that have strong work ethics. And our daughter is 12 years old. She's got it. And it's just a miracle and a blessing to watch.
You guys are just creating a whole lot of love out there in the comment section. It's just fantastic. And I think Fafita, if I could just comment here, when we started 20 episodes ago, we were kind of hoping that we would find those fans in the world that can resonate with truth and principles and habits. And that's what Og talks about, is only principles endure. And that's what Og teaches. And that's what we hope that when we bring the greatest salespeople on the show and we start off with their 3 things, to me, now 20 times 3, I've got an unbelievable amount of amazing things to look at on what drives people in their life or each and every day of their life. And it is a real honor to have you. If you're new with us, it's a Augmandino company. It's habitfinder.com/podcast. If you want to take our free assessment and measure your thoughts and align your thoughts and see if your thoughts are aligned with those things that you are reading right here. And it is just an honor to be here each and every week. But I wonder if we couldn't shift for maybe one final segment here of the show. In the world of direct selling and network marketing, like we both are in, you've seen a lot of ebb and flow. You've seen good times, frustrating times, etc. And you guys have hit a zenith here in the last couple of years. You guys have hit a rhythm with your team that is just, it's iconic. It's amazing. And I wonder if you can look to what triggered something. Do you think it was a combination of systems that got clearer for your team? Was it product pricing, opportunity? What do you think, if there was a couple of things you could share on what helped you hit the zenith after a lot of what you did just a minute ago, Bill, with your hand showing the ups and the downs?
Go ahead, Jules.
Okay. Well, you talk a lot about vision, and we all talk a lot about vision and mission. And you have to always know, and this is something I feel important, we have to know where we started, why we started. And so that's something I ask a lot of people when I get on a coaching call is why. Well, when I started, I was a mom, very scared, very skeptical, but needing to make an income. So I was hopeful. And I was hopeful that if someone could just help me make and show me how to make a little, that it would compound to potentially a lot. That was my hope, right? And so nobody can give you that hope that comes from within. But what I feel like I've always wanted from that first day is, what if I could create a system? What if we could have something that truly was for moms? Truly was for someone, a dad, somebody that wants to stay home, live life wherever on their terms, and create something. And they don't have to leave if they don't want to. They could do it from the comfort of their home. So for me, I believe we finally got to a place that we could create something that anybody could do. You could take it in small increments versus the old style of network marketing is, you can do amazing things. You could be big. You can be this. The mom or the person at home wants to know, I can just do a little bit and make this. And if I make this, I can help someone else make this. And together we can be more. And so to me, I think it was that we got to a point we can help someone start a business for free. It costs nothing. They have a passion about something they try, which is something they don't have to ask permission for because it's an inexpensive item. They then get followed up with, because they love it. What do you love about it? They then tell the world about it, and organically they start a business because they love what it represents. Mm-hmm. Creating a culture and a community that they can work from home with a baby on the side of their hip, being able to make a difference in the world. That's what I feel like we did, is we created simplicity. We created the smallest that could be big, and we created the love of incredible products that have a story, each one of them an individual story that we can go tell the world.
So I have a different viewpoint. So I started network marketing.
I hope so, because you are not a single mom.
I was not a single mom, no. But I had a great career as a physician. I was the top of the world, practically. I had many accolades and multiple offices and staff and overhead. And one day I realized that when I left the house in the morning, it was dark and my daughter was asleep. And when I got home at night, it was dark and my daughter was asleep. And I hated that. I thought, this is what my dad did to me. I am not going to be the guy that does this to my kid. So that's what drove me to network marketing. And when we started network marketing, it was a top-down money approach. Big money, free time, big lifestyle. And
that's a men,
And Julie says it's a men's thing. There are women who live that too.
Well,
but what it lacked was heart. And I think what started our drive a few years ago was getting back to what people really are, which we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And when we lead by love and we touch love and we lead by love, then you're real. You're that certainty that Tony talks about. You're very real. And we talked to people at that time about making $100. If you could sell a few items and make $100, what would that do for your life? And very down to earth, very faith-based, love-based, family-based. And we got back to the principles of what drives human nature. And those are the things that drive human nature: growth and contribution and family and love and faith. We got back to those things. And when we were on that mountain a couple of weeks ago in Arkansas, it was very palpable. You could feel it. Tulsa. We were overlooking the Arkansas River.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
So it was very palpable. And I think that, I call it the fierce mama energy, but I think women are less afraid to talk about love than men are. And there's a lot of dads out there that would love to be able to do what we're doing. They just don't know how just yet. And so we're in the process of developing a system, because systems allow you to have a worldwide business. It allows you to have a huge business when you have simple systems that people can follow. And we have them. And they're free. You don't have to pay for them. And so just like all the stuff that's inside of you is free, and all the knowledge that's available, people say, I can't afford a book. There's this thing called libraries. They still exist.
That's right.
And so, and there's lots of people, little mailbox share books things all over the world. And so everything that you need is inside of you, and it's available for free. The principles are available for free. And what we do is provide a landing spot or a community for people to tie into, to take advantage of what's already there.
I want to just add one more thing to what I was saying that you just triggered. And this is going to sound really bizarre Dan's going, oh gosh, what's coming out of her mouth? Nope. The greatest salesman. But I have to say this because it's been a 4-year run as of January with this social system, and totally different approach, and loving people with zero startup and being able to love a product and tell people about it. And the very first part of our business in this chapter 4 years ago, we could slap anything up and it could look so salesy. And in fact, our daughter at the time made cute little collages and all this stuff. And we could throw it up there and people loved it. And that got us to a certain place. In the last couple years, the tip of the day, that which has really created massive massive momentum and just this surgence of excitement has been, like I said, take this with a grain of salt, I'll explain. If it looks like sales, if it sounds like sales, that's not going to sell the product. People don't want to be sold to. They want to care first, and they buy from you first. It's attraction marketing. It's you. So it has to come from a place of a loving place, a realness, an organic place of, I love this because. And when you come from that place, it's not a sales game. It's a sharing and love game. And so I tell people, if you're having a challenge selling, it's because you're selling them on something versus taking from a heart space of what it is you truly love and your certainty for what it's going to get you. There's a big difference of how our team is today and how it was 4 years ago. And heck, there's a whole big difference of where it was 20 years ago. But that's super important when you're coming across on social media and you're coming across and it's on Zoom, any of that, it has got to come from your heart. They are going to read right through you. They have got to be attracted to you first and your brand first and your product second. That's how the order is.
And that's what makes us the best business in the world. I still say occasionally when I'm on stage is that, network marketing, direct sales is the best personal development seminar you'll ever be paid to take. Yeah. And it's because self-discovery is part of the process. And even though it's sales, but it's not sales, everything is sales.
Everything.
Right. Bedtime, bath time, dinner time, dating, it's all sales. And so self-discovery and personal development is the name of the game, and you have to be real to be able to admit your mistakes and to show off your strengths.
I'm not saying that sales isn't a bad thing. I'm saying, because we do it all the time, I'm saying if the person on the other end feels like you're selling them, right, that you're having to go through whatever the points are, it's not as organic as the love that comes through, right? That you are bringing them into it. They're coming towards you. In our business, the first 16, I would even say the first 18 years, it was about going out to find people, right? Like, heck, we had all sorts of strategies of how many people we called.
Yeah, you jump out of a van and run to an office.
Today, it's about how do you bring people towards you and what are they seeing you doing? And are you living out your life out loud so they're attracted to what it is you're doing?
We are richly fed, and you just validated what Og teaches because he doesn't teach sales techniques. He's teaching principles of life. And Correct. It is just all about that love. And Bill, I wonder if you can, I'm sure you're going to remember the first place I heard the quote that you gave half of a moment ago from an interview that was iconic for me in 1993, because I had audio tapes going all the time, and I was on that. I think it was called The Power Within, the Tony Robbins Power series, where the tapes were sent out every month, and he was interviewing Stephen. Power Talk. So he's interviewing Stephen Covey, and Covey answers that question. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but we are
spiritual beings having a human experience. Absolutely.
That was the first time I had heard that. And I'd studied Covey quite a bit back then because my wife had him as a professor in college. And so we've been well fed. Julie, go ahead.
Awesome. I love that. She had a professor. Stephen Covey's a professor in college.
Yeah.
Wow.
She did.
I met Stephen through Mark Victor Hansen. He helped me get my first book published. He was easy to pick out in the audience because he looked just like me. So as I was walking through the book fair in Fort Worth, Texas, there he was.
Wow. Well, you just mentioned it. You have a book out there. If people want to find Bill and Julie Toth, how do they do it?
Facebook's the easiest way to find us. And, it's the quickest that will respond. It's so easy. Facebook is so easy to find us. So my name there's a space, Dr. Bill, but on Facebook, it's Dr. Bill. It's one word. And then, of course, Julie Toth.
So Dr. Bill Toth, space Toth, and then Julie Zook, Z-O-O-K, Julie space Zook, space Toth, T-O-T-H, in Waller, Texas.
Yeah, that's Waller, Texas, is right near Wally World, where the Griswolds go on vacation.
It's right in the middle of paradise.
Well, you guys, we've been well fed. A Wisdom Wednesday at 2:00 Pacific time always fills me. It fills my journal. I've got notes. I get to replay it. I get to listen again. I get to take more notes and see how I can apply it to my life. And I think that our listeners today felt that as well. And I just can't thank you enough for sitting in that chair as the greatest salespeople in the world. Continued success to you. God bless you. And we'll look forward to our next episode next week on Wisdom Wednesday. Everybody, thank you for your participation today. And bye for now.
Thank you, Dan.
Bye, Dan.